Hi, I'm glad you stopped by. We want to know what the seal is, because whatever it is the opposite of the mark of the beast, which is understood to be worshiping the beast and his image by keeping Sunday as the day of worship. And we have this from the 1847 Broadside. I saw all that would not receive the mark of the beast and of his image in their foreheads or in their hands could not buy or sell. I saw that the number 666 of the image beast was made up, and that it was the beast that changed the Sabbath, and the image beast had followed on after and kept the Pope's and not God's Sabbath. And all we were required to do was to give up God's Sabbath and keep the Pope's, and then we should have the mark of the beast and of his image. Okay, and we have a few passages that are going to go through and identify several things about the seal, and this particular heading is these passages are telling us exactly what the seal is and naming it. Now, this is part 1, and we're going to have part 2 next week. You want to check in on that because we have more information about the seal than we want to put in one video. So we're continuing here with this. While living under and proclaiming the most solemn message ever borne to mortals, presenting the law of God as a test of character and as the seal of the living God, they are transgressing its holy precepts. You can look this up. This is stated in a negative context, but it is important to understand that we have the seal of the living God and the law of God as a test, and you'll see this theme develop as we go through here. Now, this next portion is a vision that was a public vision, and so the things that are said are not necessarily good English or anything like that, and this is not manipulated or whatever. It is written out by Joseph Bates, and he put it in his book on the sealing message. So this is a few lines that he put in. We don't know where the rest of this vision is that is written out, but nevertheless, this is the part that we have available. So it says, "Where did the light break out? Let thine angels teach us where the light broke out. It commenced from a little, then thou dost give one light after another. The testimony and commandments are linked together. They cannot be separated. That comes first, the 10 Commandments by God. The commandments never would be struck against if it were not to get rid of the Sabbath commandment. That one has relaxed it is very foolish. It was very small, and when it rose, though it rose in strength, it was weak back there. When it came up, it increased. If they won't hear it, they are as accountable as though they did hear it. He was well pleased when his law began to come up in strength, and the waste places began to be built up. Out of weakness it has become strong from searching his word. The test upon it has been but a short time. All who are saved will be tried upon it in some way. That truth arises and is on the increase, stronger and stronger. It's the seal. It's coming up. it arises, commencing from the rising of the sun, like the sun, first cold, grows warmer, and sends its rays. So this is talking about the Sabbath, and that it is the Sabbath that is the seal, and it is the Sabbath that was like the sun, first cold, grows warmer, and sends its rays. When that truth arose, there was but little light in it, but it has been increasing. Oh, the power of these rays! It grows in strength. The greatest weight and light is on that truth, for it lasts forever when the Bible is not needed. It arose there in the east. It began with a small light, but its beams are healing. Oh, how mighty is that truth! It's the highest after they enter the goodly land, but it will increase till they are made immortal. It commenced from the rising of the sun, keeps on its course like the sun, but it never sets. The angels are holding the four winds. It is God that restrains the powers. The angels have not let go, for the saints are not all sealed. The time of trouble has commenced. It is begun. The reason why the four winds have not let go is because the saints are not all sealed. Now, this time of trouble that is spoken of here is actually called a short time of trouble just before the close of probation. But this time of trouble and God's mercy has now lasted 177 years. And if it had not lasted that long, all of us at this time would have ceased to exist. Continuing. It's on the increase and will increase more and more. The trouble will never end until the earth is rid of the wicked. At that time, neighbor will be against neighbor. That time has not yet come, when brother against brother and sister against sister, but will come when Michael stands up. When Michael stands up, this trouble will be all over the earth. Why, they are just ready to blow. There's a check put on because the saints are not sealed. Yea, publish the things thou hast seen and heard, and the blessing of God will attend. Look ye, that rising is in strength and grows brighter and brighter. That truth is the seal. That's why it comes last. So this is very interesting to me. The reason, apparently, that the Sabbath is the last great truth of the Advent message. And that means that the message of Jones and Wagner, which many claim to be very profound, is actually not it's not a sealing message. It is the Sabbath that is the seal. And it's very interesting to take a look at these things. The shut door we have had, God has taught and taught, but that experience is not the seal, and that commandment that has been trodden underfoot will be exalted, and when you get that, you will go through the time of trouble. I saw some looking too far off for the coming of the Lord. Time has continued on a few years longer than they expected. Therefore, they think it may continue a few years more, and in this way their minds are being led from present truth out after the world. In these things I saw great danger, for if the mind is filled with other things, present truth is shut out, and there is no place in our foreheads for the seal of the living God. This seal is the Sabbath. Now, this is very profound because this little word is very definite, exact, and precise. This seal is the Sabbath, totally anchored. There is no equivocation in any of this. Next, then another angel was commissioned to fly swiftly to the 4 angels and bid them hold until the servants of God were sealed with the seal of the living God in their foreheads. So we have the seal of the living God and the seal of the living God. And the next one is the seal of the living God. And the next one, the seal of the living God. And we have a great, wonderful, beautiful harmony. And again, the seal of the living God. And you can pause the video and go back and read these various items in their fullness. And references are always given unless I'm expressing an opinion. And so it's very important to me. I want you to have the truth. Okay, this passage identifies when the sealing time begins. And I have more than one, and I failed to correct the English on that. Okay, I saw that our adversaries have been trying to open the door in the outer apartment and to close the door in the inner apartment where the ark is, containing the 2 tables of stone on which are written the 10 Commandments by God's own finger. I saw that Satan was now using every device in this sealing time to keep the minds of God's people from present truth and cause them to waver. So what does this mean in this sealing time? It's very important. Again, this is taken from the original authentic testimony, number 23, page 22. The true people of God who have the spirit of the work of the Lord and the salvation of souls at heart will ever view sin in its real sinful character. They will always be on the side of faithful and plain dealing with sins which easily beset the people of God, especially in the closing work for the church. And I have a little one here. In the sealing time of the 144,000 who are to stand without fault before the throne of God, will they feel most deeply the wrongs of God's professed people. And we're going to pause right there. So what this is saying here is, especially in the closing work for the church, many people do not understand when this is. So it's very important to understand Matthew 24:14, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached into all the world, and then the end will come. We entered the end in 1843 and 44, the Jewish year 1843, which extended over into March of 1844. Now, we know this to be fact because the gospel, this gospel of the kingdom, was preached to the entire world by that time. The preaching of the first angel's message that Christ was coming to this earth. Now, in the sealing time of the 144,000. So this is telling us when the sealing time started. The sealing time started with the third angel's message, which began October 23, 1844, the day after the disappointment, with the vision that God gave to Hiram Edson as he walked through the cornfield. Very important to understand where we are and the importance of understanding these things in our day because of current conditions. And now we have a passage that identifies who is doing the sealing. Said the angel, the third angel is binding them, sealing them in bundles for the heavenly garner. And this reference, in case you do not know, is the 1854 supplement to the Christian Experience and Views, which was the 1851 Christian Experience and Views. Now we have a passage which identifies when the sealing time ends. I saw angels hurrying to and fro in heaven. An angel returned from the earth with the writer's inkhorn by his side and reported to Jesus that his work was done, that the saints were numbered and sealed. Then I saw Jesus, who had been ministering before the ark containing the 10 Commandments, throw down the censer. He raised his hands upward and with a loud voice said, "It is done." And that is when the sealing time ends. Now let's talk about this angel here that reported to Jesus that his work was done. This angel has a writer's inkhorn by his side, and this language right here is taken from Ezekiel chapter 9. And this angel is actually a representation of the Advent people who are delivering the message of the third angel correctly. And again, we need to get the correct understanding of the third angel's message by reading Life Incidents by James White. Again, that's Life Incidents by James White. And in the description will be a link so that you can get that book. All right. This is the third angel's message, is numbering and sealing the saints. That is true. And this is taken from the 1858 Great Controversy, page 197. Look it up and prove all things that are being said here. Now we have several passages on who is being sealed. About 4 months since, I had a vision of events all in the future, and I saw the time of trouble such as never was. Jesus told me it was the time of Jacob's trouble, and that we should be delivered out of it by the voice of God. Just before we, that's the 144,000, entered it, we all received the seal of the living God. And here again, we have the name of the seal, and we have who it is that is being sealed with this seal. And as we were about to enter the holy temple, Jesus raised his lovely voice and said, "Only the 144,000 enter this place." And we shouted, "Hallelujah." Well, bless the Lord, Brother Jacobs. It is an extra meeting for those who have the seal of the living God. Now, I want to state that I do not know, I do not have any information as to whether or not this seal is exclusive to the 144,000. We do know that there are certain things about the 144,000 that are exclusive. And one of them is their ability to enter this holy temple. So there are things about this seal that we do not yet understand. But we do know, and we are told, which we've already read, that it is the Sabbath that is the seal. And the seal is called the seal of the living God. When Jesus leaves the sanctuary, then he that is holy and righteous will be holy and righteous still, for all their sins will then be blotted out, and they will be sealed with the seal of the living God. Now, this is about Brother Hastings' wife, who had died. And we're going to say a few words about this. I saw that she was sealed and would come up at the voice of God and stand upon the earth and would be with the 144,000. Now, many people take issue with the word with. However, consider this. If you are a member of a football team, you're the quarterback or whatever you are, that you are a member of that team, and somebody comes up to you and says, "Who are you?" What? And you say, "I'm with them." That makes perfect sense. You're with that team. You're part of that team. It's one way of saying it. But we have more, because not only is she sealed, but it says, and would come up at the voice of God and stand upon the earth. Okay. Would come up at the voice of God. When is the voice of God? You go to take your 1858 Great Controversy, which is also known as Spiritual Gifts Volume 1. And you take that book and you turn to page 205. And there you will find that there is a special resurrection at the voice of God. And the only people who are resurrected are righteous and holy. You can read that in Revelation chapter 20, the first part. And I know that there are many places that talks about they also who pierced him are going to be coming up, but that is not true. They come up at the third resurrection with all the rest of the wicked. Okay, this is what we have, and I have given you references on that. And now you understand why it is that the count of the 144,000 started with the third angel's message on October 23, 1844. Then we have this one, learn your children to obey you, then can they more easily obey the commandments of God and yield to his requirements. Don't let us neglect to pray with and for our children. He that said, suffer little children to come unto me and forbid them not, will listen to our prayers for them, and the seal or mark of believing parents will cover their children if they are trained up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. very important information. And that concludes this first part of looking at the seal. That is the seal of the Sabbath and is the seal of the living God. God bless your study.